Look, this is an amazing story, and this should be a really good feel-good story for people, because, you know, a lot of people have things wrong with their bodies and things that they think they just have to live with. Not so for our next guest, Ian Arthur, thanks to Dr. Cormac Convery. Ian was a sailor, and he suffered from what was called, I hope I've got this right, Rhinophyma, which is a disfiguring thing that you can have on your nose. And you're looking there and you're saying, which one of these men has the bad nose?
Neither is the answer.
Neither, as it turns out, absolutely. So let's talk to Ian and the doctor, Dr. Cormac Convery. Doctor, before we begin, before I talk to Ian, what is, I'm sure I haven't pronounced that correctly, Rhinophyma? What is it?
It's Rhinophyma, which is a rare subgroup of rosacea, which is a much commoner condition. But it's, as Ian will tell you, it's very distressing and impactful to those who suffer this uncommon condition.
OK, so Ian, tell us a little bit about it, because you weren't born with this condition. You had a perfectly lovely nose, and then the condition got progressively worse, or you could say regressively worse. Tell us a little bit about what it was like.
It started about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, just gradual at first, and all of a sudden it started building up, and it became like that. And I started to become a bit of a recluse. I'm a photographer, professional photographer for 40 years. I like talking to people, going out, liaising with people. And a lot of it is face-to-face contact. And one of the first things that happen when you meet somebody is they'll always look at your eyes, look at your mouth, look at your nose. But then if your nose is a little bit disfigured, they tend to look at your nose. And so I started retreating backwards, really, and become a little bit of a recluse and stop doing less work because I was embarrassed to go out.
I think, Ian, a lot of people will look at that. People will see that and they'll be able to identify with people that they know.
And that's where Cormac came in.
And the great Dr. Convery then was able to change things. But before Dr. Convery came along, what were doctors saying to you? Were they saying there was nothing they could do? Were they saying rub ointment on it? What were they saying to you?
I went to the GP about 2.5. In fact, it was just as COVID finished, and they gave me some ointment, which was like a facial scrub. And all it did was just take a top layer of skin off. And I wasn't happy with that because it just made a mess. And so early on last year, I went to see my GP again. I said, is there something we can do about it? And she says, well, I'll make a referral to the dermatology clinic. And I still haven't had a referral. And so by November, end of November, I was getting pretty down about it. And that's when I started looking for other alternatives.
Well, so much. Let's go to the doctor now, Ian. But pity the doctor can't operate on your ears as well. But just go, Dr. Convery. Where basically did you begin? I mean, when you look at this, how did you tackle what was wrong with Ian?
So basically with the Rhinophyma, we have an excessive growth of vascular and glandular tissue on the lower part of the nose typically. And really it's a case of my approach is to sculpt the nose, and we're trying to reveal the real nose underneath. And one of the things I'd like to pick up on what Ian said about how we look at people, when we've mapped how we look at people, we don't actually look at noses. And I always say that noses should be invisible. And a nose is unlikely to be anything other than a negative facial feature. As with anything else, there will be exceptions to that, but in the vast majority of cases, that's the reality. And we wanted to make Ian's nose invisible again so we could re-expose and reintroduce him to the world, because as you can see, he does like to talk.
Well, Dr. Convery, you managed to do that with a laser. You sculpted it, and I believe it cost in the region of £3,000. And Ian, the recovery, I think after as soon as 2 weeks, you were feeling brand new. Were you surprised at what a success it was? How easy it was relatively?
Oh, I was. It was the best feeling in the world. I mean, I know that what I had was a disfigurement, and some people have disfigurements a whole lot worse. This was only small, but it was enough to affect me mentally. And after having this done, I just felt like a new person, and I didn't feel ashamed to go out. I've just joined a health club, and I go swimming most days, and I just feel like a normal person again.
Well, Doc, the really scary thing, it's fantastic to know that you, with your expertise, and that there's the ability to turn something like this around. But the really scary thing is that it can happen in the first place, and it happened to Ian 5-6 years ago. Does that mean it could happen to any of us, or is there certain predispositions some people have?
So, Eamon, unfortunately, with your genetic background similar to mine, you're in the higher risk category, because rosacea generally happens more in Celtic type skin. We're the world leaders at it, and it's a subgroup of them who will be more likely to develop a rhinophyma. One of the horrible things about rhinophyma is that people are not only underappreciated visually, but they're also judged, and it's very common for people to assume that a patient with a rhinophyma is a heavy drinker or an alcoholic, and this is simply not the case. And we've heard this time and again where patients are not only struggling with how they look, but they just feel like they're being judged for how they look as well.
Well, thank goodness there are people like you. Guys, we'd love to talk more, and Ian, I know you'd love to talk more, but we've got to stop it right there, okay?
Oh, fair enough.
Love the skin you're in. Love that new nose of yours. Dr. Convery, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, fantastic.
Thank you. Good
Ian
talking to you both.
And Dr. Convery. And I love that it was his daughter that gave him the confidence to, pursue a little bit of a different approach. And the fact he's still waiting for a dermatologist appointment, sometimes you just have to take the matter into your own hands if you can.